the issue of porous borders, arms bearing and unwholesome activities along the borderlines. Those are some of the questions we seek to answers to today. And joining us is the National Public Relations Officer and Assistant Controller of Customs, Abdullahi Mewada. He joins us from Abuja studio. Good to have you join us on the program. 6.1 trillion naira revenue generated in 2024 is not a child's play. Tell us what you have done differently.
Well, thank you very much for this opportunity. Nigeria Customs Service have recorded a history in terms of revenue collection, and we have collected a sum of over 6.1 trillion naira, an amount that is historic. In the last over 100 years of the existence of the Nigeria Customs Service, we have not collected such amount. Now, the reasons behind the success, this success story we are dishing out today or to you is one, we need to have a motivated workforce. Human resource is very important and very critical to the success of every organization. And if that human resource are well motivated and they have the right training, they have the right skills to collect the revenue, definitely there will be minimal leakages in terms of revenue collection. I think one of the reasons why we recorded this success story is the workforce that are motivated to collect maximally on behalf of the federal government of Nigeria. Secondly, in terms of the issue of human resource, we will also dwell at the capacity building of officers. We are very intentional about training of officers to meet with the best practices in the area of customs operations, both in revenue collection, in trade facilitation, as well as suppression of smuggling. That is also another very critical area. Then another area we have done differently in terms of its engagement, stakeholders engagement, and the effort of collaboration. The coming of the Comptroller General of Customs as the CGC of Customs shows three broad areas: collaborating with stakeholders, issue of innovation, and issue of consolidation. Somebody somewhere have done something very significant, and we need to consolidate on that, to improve on that, and that improvement translated into the success story we are recording. Now, in the area of stakeholders engagement, if you realize the last year World Customs Organization celebrated customs and have a theme for 2024 to talk about customs engaging with traditional and new partners for a purpose. So which means our engagement with traditional stakeholders, our engagement with new partners have really revamped our revenue collection. You can see in the area of collaborations with government agency, collaboration with private sector, as well as international collaborations has yielded more revenue collection.
All right, Mr. Mewada, and it is a new year. What is the Nigeria Customs Service doing for importers and exporters as the federal government targets increased revenue generation?
Well, I have said this in different arenas where I find myself that customs always sits on three tripods, and we must be effective in those three responsibilities. And the way this camera that is standing before me is standing on three stands for it to stand well, so also customs administration all over the world. We cannot effectively collect revenue if there is no effective trade facilitation. And we cannot collect revenue if our borders, that is sea, land, and air, are porous. And our borders are not effective in terms of manning these borders, in terms of movement of consignment and so on, without proper control, border control. So I think Nigeria Customs Service will succeed because of looking at those three broad areas.
All right.
In 2025, we are looking forward to a year of consolidation on our previous gains. It's not an avenue for us to rest on our oars.
All right,
then. We are going to be very intentional.
I hear you, Mr. Mewada. And talking about the intentionality, you know, the Nigeria Customs performs several roles, including trade facilitation and revenue generation, just like you have mentioned. But what we hear mostly is revenue generation. At whose expense is this? Because Nigerians are complaining that they can no longer buy Tokumbo automobiles, for instance. Meanwhile, new cars are very expensive.
Well, I want to talk broadly, then I will be specific to the issue of Tokumbo vehicles. I think the revenue collection on Ro-Ro vehicles, that's what we call Ro-Ro vehicles, vehicles that are non-containerized vehicles, is very, very infinitesimal compared to the revenue we collect from bulk cargoes. So those trillions here we are dishing out are not really basically from importation of used vehicles. Used vehicles, yes, they contribute to our revenue collection, but it's not really significant compared to bulk importation. People that import items that usually add value to those items in terms of manufacturing, in terms of packaging, in terms of so many value addition. So our bulk of revenue is coming from bulk importation, not from Ro-Ro vehicles, Tokumbo vehicles. So basically, we believe trade facilitation is very important. That is why we have rolled out schemes such as Authorized Economic Operator Program. We feel if you are a compliant trader, we are going to give you a VIP treatment. We are going to give you preferential treatment so that you can move your cargo faster than non-compliant trader. We have to give you dividends for compliance. So those are what we are doing to make sure that those who are out to do legitimate trade get value for being legitimate, for doing the right thing.
I hear you, Mr. Mewada.
Tokumbo vehicles are expensive.
Yes, they are expensive, and I really want us to talk about.
If you are aware,
yes, I want us to talk about
your question.
Okay, please quickly get to that, please.
Tokumbo vehicles, and I want to be very specific about it. The system, the government in its wisdom, have what is called fiscal policies measures. And those fiscal policies measures determine the rate of duty collection on different categories of items. That's why we have different bands in our tariff book. We have items that come in 0% duty. We have items that come in 10% duty. We have items that come in 35% duty with levy. So if you see an item having 35% duty with levy and so on, then which means the government is intentional about its fiscal policy. We have a national automotive policy. We also want to assemble vehicles in Nigeria. We also want to use brand new vehicles in Nigeria. So the essence of imposing tax on some of these items is to make the economy better, more sustainable, and something that it will be more viable for all Nigerians. So we are not imposing tax, or we are not collecting tax on vehicles because we want Nigerians to suffer or vehicles not to be affordable to them. But
I hear you, Mr. Mewada.
Self-sufficient. We also want to assemble vehicles in Nigeria.
I hear you loud and clear, but you know, we'll have to talk about the cost of clearance. It is pegged at about 70%. Why is it that high? We'll get you to respond to that question when we return from this break. Please stay with us. You know, as it is, it's pegged at about 70%. Why is the figure that high?
Well, as I explained earlier, if you look at different bands in our tariff, we have what is called common external tariff. We have different bands. We have different rates of duty. And each category of item, there is an imposition of a particular ad valorem, that is percentage rate of duty that is imposed on that particular commodity. Now, if you are importing some categories of items that requires manufacturing, maybe medical equipment, maybe some agricultural inputs, those categories of items come in under 0% levy. We have items that are imported as CKDs or SKDs, semi-knocked down or what you call completely knocked down. Those items, when you bring them into Nigeria, those items you are going to add value or you are going to assemble. There will be some element of manufacturing or assembling on those vehicles. So on those items, it could be vehicles, it will be other items. The imposition of duty on those items is barely 10% duty. Now, when you are importing Tokumbo vehicle or brand new vehicle, the government in its wisdom decided to say it's imposing duty and levy on those vehicles. so that those who are importing CKDs, SKDs, in order to assemble or to manufacture in Nigeria, will be able to compete with those who are bringing in fully built vehicles. That is the essence of fiscal policy. But our role as an agency of government, we are responsible for implementation of these policies. We don't design rate of duties. We don't determine what will be the rate of duty of each item. It is a product of fiscal policy by the government.
All right, Mr. Mewada, I hear you clearly, but you know what? It is our
responsibility to also explain to members of the public why we have to implement this policy and why.
I hear you, but I need to come in very quickly, Mr. Mewada. Yes, I need to come in very quickly. You've spoken about, these rates, but you know that how many manufacturing plants do we really have in Nigeria that can serve the entire, citizenry? And if you look at it, the difference is actually very humongous, and this would have just been some form of respite for those people who need to be mobile.
Well, our responsibility is to implement, and we're implementing. And I could remember vividly during the last 2024 CGC's conference, one of those who we invited to be part of the panelists, high-level panelist session, is a very good manufacturer of vehicles, somebody who assembles vehicles here in Nigeria. So we have so many of them coming in, they are doing that, and the government need to support them to grow.
But what is the volume? Mr. Mewada, what is the volume of vehicles they release to the market? And I mean, what is the volume and how affordable are these items? Because I want to believe Nigerians are not exactly against buying new cars, but how affordable are these vehicles?
It's a gradual process. We are surely going to reach the promised land. We have to start somewhere.
All right then, because affordability and the ability to actually get spare parts, when something is wrong is another. And, Mr. Mewada, on the Lagos-Benin-Onitsha highway also, for instance, you see at least 5 checkpoints, customs checkpoints. Is this not duplicity of duties for these personnel?
Well, let me start by saying last year towards the end of, in December 2024, we issued a statement reinforcing our new anti-smuggling strategy, which has been initiated, approved by the management of the Nigeria Customs Service under the CGC Bashir Adewale Adeni, MFR. Number one, we believe one thing the customs need to be more effective is by, deploying intelligence-driven operations. And we have tried with one of our best operations, and we are succeeding in that operations. Now, the coming of the CGC first see the end of the traditional CGC's task force, and all the powers of those task force was moved to the Federal Operations Unit, Zone A, B, C, and D, to perform that second layer of checks. Now, we have different layer of checks. Then the second one, we have the Joint Border Patrol Operation, which is under the Office of the National Security Advisor. That program was also called to an end because we want to give those enforcement units the powers to perform their functions without creating encumbrances to trade facilitation. So we have started that, and we have relayed our enforcement strategies that will be intelligence-driven. We are working on how we can effectively integrate technology into our operations. We started with an operation called Operation Whirlwind. Operation Whirlwind is an operation that has to do with curtailing the smuggling of petroleum products outside Nigeria. And that operation, you can never see a vehicle on the road stopping you with the name Operation Whirlwind. The operation is purely intelligence-driven. We use sophisticated softwares. We monitor the movement of these cargoes. We also use collaboration with NMDPRA and so on to provide the tracking of all petroleum products across the country. And with that, we have succeeded in intercepting thousands, millions, thousands of petroleum product intended to be smuggled outside the country at various regions within the country. It could be in the northeast, it could be in the northwest, it could be in the southwest, it could be in south. In so many places we have done interception. So our operations
Mr.
are going
Mewada,
to be intelligence-driven.
Intelligence driven. That is critical because as it is also, we hear reports of customs personnel doing their jobs, which is something you've also, spoken about. But we still find containers on our roads, containers containing these items that should not have even left the port. If the officers are really doing their jobs, are we supposed to still find these items on the highways, which will now lead to having more personnel on the roads trying to, hold them?
Well, that is why I said we have layers of defense. If you are a smuggler or you have a very bad intention to smuggle something very heinous into the country and you succeeded in, passing through the first layer of defense, we have another layer that can also use that layer to be able to get across to you. If you recall in 2017, we had seizures of arms and ammunition. Those arms and ammunition were seized outside the ports. That is the essence of having second layer of defense. So we, after the commands as the first layer have done their own nitty-gritty, we also have reasons to recheck and see if there are other infractions or there are items that can be inimical to my own safety, to your own safety, to all Nigerians. So we have that prerogative to do that. We also have the power to do what we call post-clearance audits. We can allow your vehicle or your items to go in. Later, we can audit and look if there are infractions or there are any discrepancies.
Okay, Mr. Mewada.
We will be able to account for that.
I hear you.
That is why...
Mr. Mewada, we need to pause on that and let's just quickly take the next question because time is no longer on our side. The International Customs Day is on January 26th. That's just 2 days away on Sunday. What is its significance?
Yes. Well, every 26th of January, customs all over the world celebrates International Customs Day. That marks the first engagement under the Customs Cooperative Council. So that marks the celebration of customs every year. And each year comes with a theme that will be the driving force for customs operation throughout the world. Customs is connected. We have a coinage called Border Divides and Customs Connects. So we are connected all over the world, and we have standards in which we operate as customs all over the world in terms of all different segments of our responsibilities. This year, we are also, it's the same, we are celebrating International Customs Day. If you are aware, last year, we celebrate collaboration, customs collaborating, customs engaging with traditional and new partners with purpose. And the CGC's conference in 2024 dwell on that theme. Now, this year, we are looking at another area that has to do with customs delivering on its commitment to what efficiency, security, and prosperity. This will be the theme for the 2025 International Customs Day celebration. Now, what are the issues of, what are these commitments? One, we said efficiency. What entails customs is efficient? Custom that is efficient is custom that has the ability to effectively facilitate trade. And facilitation of trade entails simplification, standardization, automation, and harmonization of customs processes and procedures. And if time permits me, I will be able to explain all those elements in terms of what we are doing.
But I'm sorry, time really would not permit us to go into all of the details, Mr. Mewada. But, it's almost here, and I'm sure that you and your colleagues would have a great time and, would also continue to share your success story. National Public Relations Officer and Assistant Controller of Customs, Abdullahi Mewada, thank you very much for your time on the program.
Thank you very much for this great opportunity.
Well, that's our program today. Watch a repeat broadcast at midnight and at 6 a.m. I am Abosede Adenira Duremi. Bye for now.